this is vaguely what it looks like inside my head. You just have to imagine it in like 4D. Lately, I have been using this phrase, or like thinking about this phrase, like to make the best of it, and what that means. And yeah, I'm just gonna follow this. Thread. So I am a perfectionist by nature, right? I want things to be done right. I want things to be done excellently. Adesso parlo un po' l'italiano, quindi posso usare questo gesto tutto il tempo se voglio. Sì. That's my excuse. Yeah, I want things to be right. I want them to be perfect. I want them to be excellent. People have always told me that I need to relax and just enjoy life as it comes, and that the perfect is the enemy of the good. And maybe I should keep it. I don't know. I can't turn this camera around, so why can't it turn around in the middle of the video? Come on, phone. Yeah, that the perfect is the enemy of the good and all of that, but that advice has never stuck for me because, like, I value that feeling of rightness and slash excellence or perfection. Like, I legitimately value that, and I can't just, like, let that go for, I don't know, sitting around enjoying the moment when I'm not really enjoying it. It's one of those George MacDonald things of, like, not taking something that, even if you know it's right, in principle, if it doesn't feel right to you, it's like morally wrong to force yourself to do that, because it goes back to the like honey and barbiturates thing. If it feels wrong, there's something wrong there, whether that's in your perception of the idea or the idea itself. It's not safe to just like impose it on yourself, even if it's like feels wrong. So like wait till you actually can understand. This is true of most of the advice I've gotten in my life. You know, I guess there's advice, right? There's verbal advice, which is of a lesser value than like examples. And I have seen examples of people. But even looking at people and be like, I want to be that, you can't just port them 100% into yourself. Like, there has to be some sort of translation process going on because you're different people. And if you just try to be them, or you think that their values, that you, as you perceive them, I should, if I think that their values as I perceive them are applied to me, then I don't know, it's not gonna fit, right? So there has to be yeah. Like, anyway, most of the advice that I've gotten and most of the examples of other people that I see, like, I have to very much translate it into my own language and my own way of being. And then, you know, on the other side of that, then I can see, okay, like, I guess I see what they mean, but doesn't mean what I thought it meant, or like I would put it a different way or something like that. Like, there's always knowledge by experience is just so different from knowledge by hearsay. I like that some languages will actually mark that grammatically, and I like that. I think I'll put that maybe in my conlang. Yeah, it's just different knowing something from the inside versus from the outside. So, with perfectionism, I've ended up subverting it because, okay, say you want to be perfect at like playing a piece of music or climbing or something. That's like a quantitative perfection. I don't know. You know, you practice it over and over, you get it perfect, right? And it's very technical and very like specific and nitpicky. Or like writing, like perfectionism. Honestly, at this point, I can't even write anything formal anymore because it's just a minefield. Like you do drafts and drafts and drafts, and you go over every word. But say you want to be perfect at like life. Then you get into this little paradox because obviously the way to be perfect in life is not to be perfect, right? It's like the most excellent way to live life is to be flexible and go with the flow and accept things and make the best of them. So I'm like applying these sort of mindset and techniques of perfectionism to not being a perfectionist. What did CJDX say? Yeah. He said like perfectionism, the process of perfectionism does not usually produce perfection or excellence. But perfection and excellence is still a thing that's there. You just, it's still a value. And I didn't want to let go, and I don't want to let go, and I really can't let go of that value. But in some way, I have to arrive at a more relaxed way of living. Therefore, I simply try to optimize my, to be like a perfect non-perfectionist. And that, to me, that redeems everything that's good and fun and valuable in being really disciplined about something. And also redeems the value of just like being relaxed and not caring so much. It does wrap around in the end. Anyhow. Yeah, like if you say that instead of the top, so that perfectionism is like this pyramid, right? And it's like you need to be perfect, and usually that's like unattainable, and like you're trying to do all the techniques to get to that point. Comparing yourself to other examples. So what if instead of some abstract standard of like technical excellence, the top of the pyramid is simply just like feeling good and feeling stable and balanced in the moment with reference to the future and past. The whole living in the moment thing is another classic piece of advice that I've somewhat come at from a somewhat subversive perspective, and I think I'm getting to where people are talking about, just not in the way that they had said to do it. Anyhow, so what if that's the top of the pyramid, is simply like just like feeling good and enjoying life? Well, there's like so many ways you can produce that, but like say that's the goal. Or then in other words, the purpose of life is not meeting some, this gets back into the spirit and the law. Everything really does tie back to Christianity. Everything really can be put into, like, but it ties back into the spirit and the law if you're familiar with that whole thing in Christianity. Anyhow, let's say that the purpose of life is not to meet some abstract standard, but rather just simply to enjoy life, or just to live. But why? What does it mean to enjoy something? It's like to take pleasure in it, right? To me, pleasure and beauty are really connected. The way that I would define or experience these beauty is really that which produces pleasure. Like something beautiful is always going to cause this like resonate in a way that's very pleasant. And yeah, like these are pretty much connected. And then beauty itself, the way that I define beauty has to do with like coherence, or like good intervals, like harmony in the way that something exists and holds together, just a certain like sense of coherence that rings almost. There's a resonance to it. It's the whole thing of a gestalt, right? You set up enough elements and then you get like a higher order, and it just, yeah. Which is the way that all of existence works, by being coherent and by holding together disparate parts into wholes and wholes and wholes and wholes. And that is to me, that is like what beauty is. But that's also literally what it is to be and to exist or to live. Therefore, yes, the purpose of life is to enjoy it. That is what, like that feeling and experience in the actions that way is what actually like it upholds existence in the first place. So then this thing of like beauty and being in coherence, that gets back to excellence. If you're going to create something beautiful, it involves that sort of process of like refining and putting things in order and creating, which is like, and then something getting better and better and developing and growing. And the pursuit of excellence requires, hold up, where was I? Saidin and Saidar, those are terms from the Wheel of Time, but I use them as a shorthand for like I think it's like yin and yang, basically. I've just like reinvented the wheel a bit there. The fundamental duality of the universe, masculine and feminine patterns. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to put it. Creation is, I don't know. So like, yeah. To produce beauty requires the pursuit of excellence, which requires this structure, but then also the right environment to sustain and to appreciate that structure, and like to be an environment for it, because as some saint said, like a perfect person is only perfect in a perfect world. Or in other words, really, it's true, perfection, even something that's like objectively perfect, it's only going to be recognized as, and really only going to be perfect or good in the right environment that can like, that is adapted to it, that can appreciate it. If, I don't know, like you listen to, or you experience like art from a totally foreign culture, it doesn't necessarily come across as beautiful or excellent or even valuable, because you aren't yet the right environment for it. But if you were to become more of the right environment for it and participate in it, you would start to see, okay, there is value in this, and you can see the structure and you can see the excellence. But it requires both of these elements. Ubi amor ibi oculi, where love is, there are eyes, or, beauty is in the eye of the beholder and all of that. And then excellence and like pleasure and how to choose that requires discernment, and it's an almost like aesthetic discernment of what is good, or in these terms, what feels right, what is excellent, and more refining oneself so that you have good taste, and also what is good for you feels good and you're attracted more to that. Of course, that's tricky because it's tricky because it can go wrong, but like so is everything. That's another thing that I think about just constantly. And I've been told that I'm very logical, but to me it's weird to be told that because I have problems. Like, I am not very patient with, like, say, a math problem. I'll just fall off after a couple steps. I get really impatient. It feels like there's no meaning to it. And I'm just like, and it's, you have to pay attention to these tiny things and tiny errors. Or like playing a piece of music perfect. I don't know, I have trouble sticking to that. Or like thinking very logically through an idea, like the kind of stuff that David Bentley Hart writes. Like, it's exhausting, it's not pleasant to me. But then in certain areas, I'm very, goodness, what is this lighting? Come on. Apologies, I'm very, sharp. I don't know, I want things a certain way. But it's more of an aesthetic sense of like having clean lines and having everything in its place. And it's very much a feeling of when stuff is in balance. Which sometimes doesn't, I don't know, sometimes it doesn't look like logic, but it's more of a beauty or like aesthetic thing. So yeah. The other, and then I guess another aspect of enjoying life is obvious, and of making the best of things is, of course, like the relational side, or this is always relational, because the universe, I don't know, is personal, and we're always in communion with others and other beings, and with being itself. So, really maybe another best shorthand way of saying how to enjoy life is just to put at the top just having time together with, in the presence of, those that you love and that love you. And like, it doesn't matter so much, is it objectively like a good time or a bad time, or like, are you learning stuff and being very smart? It's more just the presence. But that kind of mutual, like spending time together with those that we love, naturally produces fruit, and it naturally produces all of this. I mean, that's the Christian theory, isn't it? That reality naturally emerges out of the communion of love of the Trinity. Just quite effortlessly emerges. And so what we're doing by, I should say I never know which pronouns. Audience, what is your pronouns? If you think of the universe as personal, something that does respond to us, by like making the best of a situation, you're not imposing your will on the situation by brute force, or letting this life just walk all over you and not asserting your own will or desires in any way. But it's a relationship, it's a reciprocal thing. As John Vervaeke says, reciprocal reconstruction, making peace, right? Making the best of the situation, making peace with the situation, finding the good. I just have been liking the phrase make the best of it because I think it captures a lot of this in shorthand. Mir is a word, I think it's in Turkish or something, but the definition that I read meant both peace and world. So there you go, both like a good feeling, but then also existence itself, or the whole world is a coherent existence. So yeah. hopefully this is an example of that which it's speaking about, viz. A coherent, living fruit of, oh man, I don't know. Make the best of it.